life in Ukraine, a European country that has been invaded and it's attacked daily by a nuclear power, Russia, is contingent on two factors. One, distance from Russian artillery fire. Two, air defense. When I mean distance from Russian artillery fire, just think of Kherson city that was liberated by the Ukrainians last November. The city gets shelled repeatedly by Russians across the Dnieper River, attacking civilian population and civilian objects. Only on May 3, one of those shellings against a supermarket and a grocery shop in Kherson city killed 23 people. Many of these cases, cumulatively, are equivalent to wholesale terrorist attacks against Western cities, and several of them individually are equivalent in terms of victims to terrorist attacks against one European city. So, as I have lived myself on the ground in Ukraine, in Kharkiv or in the east, there are several circles of hell in Ukraine. There's the front line where, just look at the Donbass, Russia has been leveling and destroying entire cities and villages. Take the case of Mariupol, Bakhmut, Marinka, Avdiivka. But also Russian gunners, while they're attacking this front line, they're also leveling and attacking cities and settlements right behind those front lines. Think of Chasiv Yar, Kramatorsk, etc. So, and also you have another layer of cities such as Dnipro, Zaporizhia, etc. So that they are not immediately in the front line, but they get attacked as well. So pushing back Russian fire is a military necessity, and only that will justify the Ukrainian counteroffensive. But there's also a strategic necessity, basic, security and existential needs for Ukraine. Or put differently, Ukraine is not viable if it doesn't regain access to the sea, and that it's key for its exports and for its economy. And it's not viable having 1/5 of the country occupied by Russian forces, around 200,000 Russian soldiers, consolidating their gains and also attacking the rest of the country. So military necessity, the strategic necessity, and basic security needs. But there's also another element, a humanitarian rationale, because as we speak, Russia, led by Vladimir Putin, is conducting population replacement in the occupied lands. It deports the children, which, according to the Genocide Convention, is one of the factors that can point to genocide, and this is why there's an International Criminal Court arrest warrant against Putin and his so-called Commissioner of Children's Rights. It is detaining and at times executing local leaders, activists, councillors, elected mayors in the occupied lands. And it is also forcefully coercing the population to submit along the traditional policies by Stalin and the occupiers in this part of Europe back in the day. So there's a humanitarian rationale, and there's an urgency for Ukraine to liberate these lands, because essentially Russia is trying for these occupied regions to become another Russian province, which is in violation of fundamental rules of international law. So when it comes to the West, we have to be patient. The Allies in the Second World War failed several times to liberate Antwerpen in the Operation Market Garden. It's important to be patient, to keep the pace, to increase our support for these counteroffensive operations that have hardly started, but other counteroffensive operations that Ukraine might take in the future. Because the closer we get to military victory, the closer we can get to any semblance of peace.